Myself Rohan Vichare. That I'm gonna present today's demo for SharePoint administration and development. So if I want to tell me to myself, then I'm having total 9+ years of experience into SharePoint. So I've done various implementation on SharePoint. I've done administrative work over there, then development of on SharePoint, as well as various migration projects I've done till now from various legacy SharePoint versions, that is from earlier version of SharePoint to SharePoint, or Documentum to SharePoint, or LiveLink to SharePoint. These are like other document management portals, LiveLink, Documentum, and so I have done already migration from those systems to SharePoint, and I'm currently working as a SharePoint consultant with an IT company in Mumbai, and also work with almost all versions of SharePoint, starting from WSS 3.0 to SharePoint Online. I have also done some kind of certifications in terms of 2013, 2007, and 2010, SharePoint 2010. So this is about myself, and the I was like having some slide to understand like what are people are I'm addressing to, where exactly they are coming from, and what they are looking from this training, and so that like I can just tweak up my training accordingly. So uh, can we have if I have some other participant judges, can I know details about those guys? Hello. So let me just keep this slides like, because we don't have that much participants right now. So let me just remove this slide. Let me just go ahead. So when we talk about like SharePoint, and like how exactly SharePoint is SharePoint can be compared with ASP.NET. Like, so ASP.NET programming, what we do in terms of web development. So at that time there is different there is large difference between SharePoint development and ASP.NET development. So if I've just jotted down some point over here, like whenever I want to compare ASP.NET with SharePoint, so there will be like some kind of features I've just mentioned over here, like in terms of creation, in terms of time, what all types of skills you require to do SharePoint development, or we can say like, well, for creating SharePoint sites, and as well as licensing. So like creation, it will be like the code has to be written, and in SharePoint, like we have some predefined templates or predefined web parts over there, which can be considered can be used for creating your sites, SharePoint sites, and can be used for document management. I'll be taking you to where exactly you can use SharePoint. So I'll be taking that, but just to give some brief information about like how it differs from ASP.NET, that is traditional ASP.NET web programming. It's highly we can say differentiate on in very large extent in terms of time. Suppose I want to develop some site into SharePoint, and same sites I'm gonna create in ASP.NET. So ASP.NET will take around month of doing finding framework, deciding framework, then testing, then actual actual coding, then testing, so and integrated testing. So a lot more things has to be lot more thing has to be done in ASP.NET programming. So when we do SharePoint programming, at that time we have some kind of templates available there. So it won't take that much time to create any kind of SharePoint sites or some kind of SharePoint application. So it's in terms of time is very less time required. So I was just comparing ASP.NET program, ASP.NET site created in 1 month, in SharePoint 1 week as well. So that is how the SharePoint is like dominant. There are some certain activities on point which can be done people who are not having any IT knowledge, or we can say they are not with programming, not used to with programming. So that those guys also can do work as work as a SharePoint developer. work on a SharePoint and do some kind of application. So it's like not much dependence on dependence on .NET. It is based on .NET framework only. Like current version of SharePoint is like SharePoint 2013. Is actually the base framework of the SharePoint is ASP.NET only. So whatever development you do, like there are scope of creating model, that is rapid development model. So at that time, like rapid application development model. So it's actually creates sites or some applications in very fast. So that is one option over here. In terms of ASP.NET, here we can say the SharePoint lags behind in terms of licensing requirement. Like whenever we have already created one site and we want to deploy, at that time we don't need any kind of licensing requirement. But in SharePoint we have free versions over there, but with limited features. Not all limited features, because SharePoint 2013 has added the features which were there in earlier environment with enterprise cal. Now those are into foundation cal, so we can use our latest versions of like we can use latest version of SharePoint with maximum number of feature freely. And whenever you want to have some kind of features like the integration with different external systems like SAP or any other like Twitter, then Facebook, or any like then Oracle, at that time we need some kind of licensing using. So at that time it based on number of users you are having or you gonna like they're gonna access that SharePoint sites. So I'll just take you to what exactly SharePoint is offering. So if you see this, like the picture over here is having different cloud word clouds, like they are saying that it's like very. So let me just start with sharing is caring. So oh, one sec. Yeah, yeah. Let me just share. Let me just start with sharing is caring over here. So like SharePoint can be used as can be used as a document management portal, where exactly you can store documents and you can share documents with someone else, and also you can define permissions on that, like whether suppose you have created some containers, or we can say containers for sharing some documents. So in that also you can give permissions based on document as well. So like the way in which we do in we give permissions to other people. What is that? SharePoint is Active Directory authenticated or Active Directory integrated. So whenever we add some users to SharePoint, those will be directly taken from AD. So people does not require any kind of custom database for saving users, or there won't be any separate users required to access SharePoint sites. So like it is like very easily can be shared with people. The people don't have, we don't need to share any login password to those people. They can just go to SharePoint site and they can just click on that link and start using or start viewing that the documents you have shared with them. And if you say like SharePoint is by default having some kind of some kind of what we can say layout, which will be having different templates available over the sites templates. So they have different site template for team site. They have separate site template for wiki site. So these are like different predefined templates created over there, which can be used to create site very easily. So whenever you create any site in SharePoint, that will have, and you select template, so it will automatically create that site with those templates. So you don't have to worry about how exactly my master pages will be created, how exactly my pages will look, and so SharePoint will create it within I can say 5 minutes. So like can be used from SharePoint templates. So and suppose you want to if you want to brand that site over and above as per your requirement, so you can do branding using, there are different tools like SharePoint Designer. They have those tools also you can use. Front page is like Absolute now, you can use Dreamweaver for that in in that feature. So you can brand your site as much you want. You can customize master page over there, you can customize logos there, you can have your contents there with different colors, different themes. So you can do branding as you want. And like we have already seen, or I have already worked with various sites where exactly we have branded SharePoint like we won't be, people won't be able to understand whether it is SharePoint or .NET or any Java technology. They won't be able to understand. So we have done that kind of branding over there. Uh, we can use HTML5 over there, we can use Silverlight over there. So a lot more things you can do in branding. So this, whenever we talk about branding, that comes under the role SharePoint roles called as a SharePoint designer. So he'll be having knowledge of how we can design sites, how exactly he want to brand a site, which all components to be modified from SharePoint. Like see, whenever we create any site, so at that time SharePoint by default choose their themes like SharePoint by default themes, or they create SharePoint by default master page. So designer should know, SharePoint designer should know which are all files to be modified such way that it should not affect other sites or other SharePoint environment. So this is what the designer will play a role into that. So I'll be saying about SharePoint designer as well at the end of my session. Now external, suppose we have created some sites and we want to extend, we want to share that sites with external people. At that time also we can have some kind of SSL certificate on those sites, and we can just expose that on that sites, and we can just expose that on that sites. So if you see this Wikipedia site, it is having some kind of details about, what we can say, kind of text about something, and they have some internal links. So similarly we can create our wiki pages or some kind of publishing sites we can create using SharePoint features. So we have that template available, we can use very well for creating your publishing site with publishing content only. So there won't be any kind of application. It will be like plain publishing site which will be having only content as we have in our Wikipedia sites. Also we can suppose we are having some kind of applications like SQL applications, or the applications with SQL as a database, application with Oracle as a database. So we have various reporting the functionality, like we can use SSRS with SharePoint, we can use Excel services, that is Excel services in the sense we can show data from Excel on SharePoint. So like those are all also there. Also you can create SSRS report, that is SQL Server Reporting Services, and you can publish that report to SharePoint, and you can give permissions to people, so that like those reports will be available from on SharePoint, but data will be coming from SQL database. So that is how like we can do integration with different databases or different technologies also. Suppose you are having some kind of SAP database or SAP information, you can do it. The currently people are saying do it in the sense that you can have SAP data on your SharePoint. So like people, like what exactly SharePoint is trying to give it to us, give to us, that you don't have to go to anywhere for any information. You can just go log into one site where exactly I'll be like we can show every content, we can give links like which are getting daily used, or we can publish reports from different systems. So you don't have to go to that particular site and check login with your that systems. Let's say you are having some SAP system, so at that time you will be going to that site and you will be logging with our SAP password. So that is SharePoint is not asking you to do. SharePoint says that you do integration with me and I can show reports on my front end, that is on SharePoint front end. So this is how like it helps for people also. So like in like large business companies, so they don't like time is like valuable thing over there. So you don't have to spend more time to go to other links, go to other systems and get data and like that. So you can use reporting also. Once you have given permissions on SharePoint, so other people are having access to that site, will be all site or document library will be able to access that site. Other people will be having access denied error. I'll be like, whenever I'll be taking you to how exactly SharePoint works, what is I'm talking about, like in terms of permissions, how to give permissions, so you'll be able to get that. So there is like two-way authentication and a two-way security is maintained over there in SharePoint. That is, one is like authentication and one is authorization. So authentication like will be just checking whether people are valid in AD. So it will just log in with AD. And authorization is that whether people are authored to see this content or not, like that. So it follows two-way filtering to show contents to user. We can create intranets for your sites using SharePoint. So like as I already say that there are like different structures templates available in SharePoint which can be used to create site easily. So and after that you can customize sites. So you can create your internet sites within span of one month as you want. And also one thing over here, that it is like easily customization. You can do customize that internet sites very easily. You don't have to dependent upon IT to do that. Let's say you are given permissions to one user, or we can say that that user can be considered as site collection administrator. So I'll be taking what is site collection in SharePoint, but just to you just think on administrator, like this is the site administrator will be having access to edit content on that sites. So people can edit content, people can add content, delete content, and we have some kind of content approval also. Let's say whenever you upload some content, that will be gone through some approval process before showing to all people, or before presenting to other people or broadcasting to other people. So that is also there. So a lot more things are there, like you can keep versions, as we say in Excel we have track changes, where exactly we see we can see which are all changes has been done by earlier user. So we have that kind of functionality also, where exactly we can set versions over there, like, and those are also restorable. So if you think that the current version I'm working on it is wrong, you can restore from earlier versions. So such kind of backup functionality, or we can say disaster recovery functionality also is there. So in terms of social networking, nowadays, like when we talk about social networking, like there is like people like to have knowledge about what other people are doing, what they are capable of, or taking advantage of other people's knowledge, or we can say taking help from those who are all expert into that. Then talking to people through some chat windows. So SharePoint is by default providing those features, like you can create your internal, or we can say the intra company social network sites, where exactly people from different department can do some kind of chatting. They can ask some questions to each other. We have like SharePoint is having something called as blogs, so you can create blog sites over there. So there is by default template for blog site, by default template for discussion sites. So we have different options over there. You can create some discussion forum using SharePoint, where exactly you'll be keeping some you'll be adding some questions and asking other people's comments on it. And also you can create some blog sites, you can upload images, upload content, and people can like over there, people can say comment on that.
So that is also there. We have something called like survey also. Suppose something is happening in your company and you want to take opinion of other people in your company, so you can do, you can take, you can create survey and SharePoint, and it will be hardly we can say half an hour or 10 to 20 minutes of job, based on how big you want to make a big survey you want to make. If like the survey of only 5 patients or 2 patients, it will be hardly 10 to 10 minutes to create that on SharePoint and give permissions to other people to just give their opinion or give their poll on that survey. So that is also big feature. So like everything in SharePoint is like fast. You can do as fast as possible you want. And if you want some kind of customize or not, you're not liking SharePoint out of the box features, or we can say features, or we can say like features, or we can say look and feel. So at that time we can go for some kind of branding or some kind of other functionality addition. So most of the times like people who are like business what we can say business oriented, like those people are like they want to have SharePoint as a support system to your vital support, I can say, not only support, vital support to their business system like SAP and all. So at that time they don't want that much features in SharePoint. Like even if lot more people are using SharePoint as a out of the box using out of the box features, as like there are around 80 to 90% people are not customizing SharePoint. They are happy with how exactly SharePoint works right now. So so that is very good. Like they don't have to invest more there. They want to create any further sites in their existing environment. They can create very rapidly. They can create some small application. They can create big applications also over there in SharePoint. So they're happy with the usage of SharePoint in various manner. In other slides, I'll be taking you to how exactly SharePoint is getting used in various companies and all, like companies. So I'll be taking that also. In terms of document management, I have already shared that you can share your documents over there and you can give permissions to other people to access that and comment on it, or we can say they can contribute also to that site, what we can say that document. So if you have shared at that time, let's say what is the advantage of this. Let's say whenever you want to share some data to some persons, at that time what we do usually do, yeah, we copy that attachments into mail and send it to all people. So what is exactly SharePoint is targeting to, you don't upload, see whenever you send mail, at that time you will be having one copy in your send item. If you're sending 5 items, that mail to 5 people, at that time that 5 people will be having that file on their systems. Say let's say the file is of 5 MB, so you will be having around 30 MB. 5 plus 5 5 plus 5, that is 5 30 MB of data will be stored on Excel server, which will be storing information from other users. So what SharePoint is actually doing, you can upload to SharePoint, you can just share link with other people. So whenever people want to access that site, they'll go to that link. They can, we have something called like SharePoint is having something called as checked out and checked in. So you can, before you want to do any changes in that document, you can check out that item and you can start working on that. So at that time other people all will be able to see that content read only. They won't be able to do any changes in that. So that features is also there. Once you are done with your changes, you can just check in and your changes will be shown to other people on that particular document. So you don't have to do any kind of to and fro of that document. And we most of the times what we do, like we get confused that whether the document I've stored, where exactly I've stored, whether it is correct version, whether someone else has updated that document and he's having that document into their machines. So you don't have to worry about that. You can just go to that link, you can see document over there, you can see all our people have done changes on that, what changes they have done. So all kind of log history also we can get on SharePoint. So document management can be done very smoothly on SharePoint. And lot more like if you see 75 or 75 to 80% people are using SharePoint for document management, SharePoint for intranets, for workflow. workflow, that was I was coming to workflow in terms of like they can lot more like the lot more applications which requires mails to be triggered or reminders to be triggered or some tasks to be created for some people, or we can say project management activities. So that can be implemented out of the box in SharePoint. Suppose you are creating some task list and where exactly you want mails to be sent to the people to whom you have given per task. So at that time SharePoint is having by default features over there. You can, whenever you'll be adding some tasks to other people who all are into a active directory right now, they'll be getting mails with what task you have assigned to. So lot more features are there. You can do customizations in terms of workflow. You can create workflows over there based on some condition. This workflow should go to this direction, or workflow should go to another direction. So you can define every logic over there in SharePoint out of the box. And whenever we want some kind of complex workflow, at that time we need to go with Visual Studio workflow. So there definitely people will require some knowledge of programming. So otherwise, if you want only the workflow with some certain functionality or not that much complex, so you can very well can create over there in SharePoint. So I think I've covered a lot more over here. Governance in terms of permissions and all. We have some expiration policy over there where exactly you can define after certain time that item should get expired or item should get recycled, or in that way also we can retrieve that item once it is once it is deleted, or we can say there are like lot more backup or retrieval systems available in SharePoint. So, yeah. So let me just go to other slide. So see, this is what I was talking about. If you if you see that this trend of SharePoint, most of the people are using for knowledge management. Most of the people have created their input forms. Like whenever you want to create any customized application with some fields to be filled, or some information to be filled, at that time we need to create some login page or create some fields where exactly you want to fill data based on your whether, suppose that field is dead time, they need to keep some validation on that form. So there are in SharePoint we have something called as list where which can be considered as a some database with some input by default input form available. We can have some infopath forms. So that is some another terminology. The infopath is having infopath forms. So you can have create some infopath forms over there to submit your data. So it is like people are using 73% people are using for like electronics forms, creating electronic forms. They lot more people are creating workflows in SharePoint, and also workflows with electronics forms, or we can say workflow with different external systems also people are using. So this is how like I've just jotted down details about what exactly how exactly SharePoint is getting used in different system. If you see this, we have something called like people are using to connect ERP as well, like SAP, or we can say Oracle, CRM also people are trying to integrate. Like in SharePoint we have something called as a integration with SharePoint. So integration with Yammer. So like there is tight integration with Yammer and SharePoint, which can be leveraged very well to do some kind of social networking, leveraging social networking features of SharePoint. So this is what we have right now, like knowledge management. This is what only just have made it like very understandable, so that like knowledge management people are using around 75. They have something called like innovation management, like they create their custom applications using SharePoint. So this is like 27. They have some document review management, so document management they have. So in this way, like there are a lot more lot more ways, or we can say lot more methods we can use SharePoint, or we can leverage SharePoint. Now when exactly
people are thinking to go to SharePoint. So at that time, they should define how exactly uh, he want to have entry in SharePoint. Whether they want to have like, if I want to say that, then there are like 5 different roles in SharePoint. Whenever people want to work with SharePoint, so there are like 5 different roles I can say over here. Like administrator, which will be taking care of SharePoint structure, how exactly SharePoint farm, I can say farm. SharePoint maintains farm. So maintaining farm, maintaining their sites over there, maintaining permissions on that side. Then like SharePoint internally stores data into SQL Server, then taking SQL Server backups, like which can be used during what we can say disaster recovery, or we can say some kind of power failures or a machine crash. So that is like the activities of administrator. He also do some kind of administrative activity, like some customization has been created for SharePoint, so that has to be deployed on SharePoint. Then we can say permissions, setting permissions, keeping a usage history, how exactly SharePoint is getting used, based on like checking performance of different servers, maintaining different servers over here. For SharePoint, like we can have different server for SharePoint. We can have one server for SharePoint database. We can have one server for SharePoint search. There is something called like SharePoint search. Whenever you upload lot more document into SharePoint and you want to search across all SharePoint sites, so you need SharePoint search. You need search, and SharePoint is providing that search. You can do search also. So like search configuration, lot more activities are there which like SharePoint administrator will do, and the activity which he'll be doing. So it is not necessary that people should know about programming. People should not know, not required to have like any knowledge of SharePoint, any knowledge of .NET technology or kind of programming language. There are lot more activities which can be done by user interface of SharePoint. So SharePoint provides something called as central admin SharePoint central administration portal. So where exactly he'll be having all central administration activities can be performed on that particular location. So this is like one role. So the developer will be where exactly developer will create some customizations applications in SharePoint, which is like which is not possible in SharePoint. Like there are some requirement which cannot be fit into SharePoint structure, or we can say SharePoint framework. So at that time, that has to be updated, that has to be created. So at that time, developer can create web parts, developer can create some user controls using ASP.NET technology. They can create some forms, custom forms. They can add some custom validation. They can store data from SharePoint to we can say some custom databases, Oracle, SQL. So developer will do that kind of activity to customize create customized applications and deploy that applications. Designer will do, I have already told, designer will do kind of designing activity, how exactly master page look, where exactly that username should appear, what all themes to be used, what all colors to be used for SharePoint. Then these are all activities the designer will be taking care of. Architect is SharePoint architect. SharePoint architect is take care of what else the SharePoint architect takes care of like how exactly SharePoint to be set up, or we can say SharePoint to be implemented, how many servers should be there, how exactly SharePoint is gonna have SharePoint is gonna service different requests from different regions. Let's say your SharePoint farm is having around 20,000 users, and at that time we need to configure so that like SharePoint should handle those concurrent requests successfully. So such kind of like information, what can say, information architecture has to be set for SharePoint. So at that time SharePoint architect comes into the picture. It defined how exactly SharePoint to be used, what all are the best practices to create customizations in SharePoint. So at sometimes like some not sometimes I can say our architect will give some proper solutions or best practices to administrator or developer as well as designer, how exactly they want to do their task so that SharePoint behave smoothly. It should not give any kind of errors. It should not give any kind of stucking, or we can say it should not stuck while people are using those SharePoint per sites. So architect do that kind of activity, kind of defining architecture, defining what all servers to be then. Then consultant will be like SharePoint consultant and manager. Those are like the people will be doing consulting activities of SharePoint, like whether how exactly SharePoint can be leveraged, or we can say the whenever consultant is going to some client and client is having some requirement, so consultant will do how exactly you can use SharePoint over and above other systems, over and above ASP.NET documents, ASP.NET technology. So he'll try to convince the user, he'll try to convince, or we can say he'll just tell the client, or we can say tell the client how exactly SharePoint can be leveraged in for your use, and with minimum efforts, minimum cost, and rapidly also. So this is what like consulting will be doing. Consulting will be also giving the best practices to clients, like how exactly we can use SharePoint, why should not we go for other systems, what all if these are all activities the consultant and manager will do.